The wrestling world is on fire right now, and I'm not talking about pyrotechnics or entrance themes. I'm talking about an absolute meltdown that's shaking WWE to its core. Triple H, the man who promised us a new era, the cerebral assassin who swore he'd give the fans what they want, might be facing the biggest crisis of his entire career. And it all started with one match, one submission, and one name that echoes through wrestling history: John Cena. What happened at Saturday night's main event wasn't just controversial, it was a powder keg that exploded in Triple H's face, and the fallout. Brothers and sisters, the fallout is unlike anything we've seen in years. Rumors are swirling, tensions are boiling over, and some are even saying The Rock himself is getting involved behind the scenes. Buckle up, because what I'm about to break down will leave you absolutely stunned. But before we dive into this chaos, I need you to do something for me. If you're passionate about wrestling, if you care about what's happening in WWE right now, hit that subscribe button. SLAMZONE is your home for real talk, no sugarcoating, just the truth about what's happening in this business we all love. Ring that notification bell because you don't want to miss a single update as this story continues to unfold. And drop a comment below. Tell me if you think Triple H made the right call or if this was the biggest mistake of his creative reign. Your voice matters, and this family, the SLAMZONE family, we stick together through the best moments and the absolute worst. Now let's get into it. Saturday night's main event was supposed to be a celebration. It was supposed to be a night where WWE proved that premium live events on network television could still capture that old-school magic, that electricity that made wrestling unmissable. The card was stacked, the anticipation was through the roof, and right there in the main event slot, we had a dream match that wrestling fans have been salivating over: John Cena vs. Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. On paper, this was gold. This was storytelling at its finest. The greatest of all time, the man with 16 world championships, coming out of semi-retirement for one more shot at glory, facing off against the Ring General, the most dominant intercontinental champion in modern history, a man who's redefined what it means to be a workhorse in this business. The build-up had been perfect. Cena's return wasn't just another comeback, it was framed as his farewell tour, his final dance, his last chance to prove that even at this stage of his career, he could still hang with the absolute best. The promos were emotional, raw, filled with the kind of genuine passion that you can't fake. Cena talked about legacy, about proving that loyalty and hustle still mean something in an era of shortcuts and betrayals. He looked into the camera and told the world that this wasn't about breaking Ric Flair's record anymore, this was about proving to himself that he still had one more miracle left in him. And Gunther? The Ring General stood across from him, stoic, calculated, and utterly convinced of his own superiority. His promos cut like a knife. He didn't need to yell, didn't need to pander. He simply stated facts. John Cena was a relic of the past, a part-timer clinging to glory that had long since faded. The new era belonged to men like Gunther, men who showed up every single week, who carried the company on their backs while legends like Cena made movies and appeared whenever it was convenient. The disrespect was palpable, the tension was real, and you could feel it building with every passing week. When the bell finally rang at Saturday night's main event, the atmosphere was electric. The crowd was split right down the middle. Half of them were chanting "Let's go Cena" with the kind of fevered passion that only a legend can inspire. The other half? They were behind Gunther, chanting his name like a battle cry, believing that this was the moment where the torch would be passed, where the old guard would finally step aside for the future. You could feel the energy crackling through the arena, through your television screen, through every fiber of the wrestling universe. This was the kind of moment that defines careers. The match itself started exactly how you'd expect. Gunther came out with methodical precision, targeting Cena's body with those brutal chops that have become his signature. And I'm not talking about gentle slaps, I'm talking about strikes that echo through the arena like gunshots, that leave welts on a man's chest that last for days. Cena tried to weather the storm, tried to use his experience and that never-give-up attitude that's defined his entire career. He hit the ropes, looking for the shoulder tackle that started 1,000 comebacks, but Gunther was ready. The Ring General sidestepped, caught Cena with a brutal boot to the face, and the crowd gasped. This wasn't going to be easy. This wasn't going to be a nostalgic feel-good moment where the legend gets one more triumphant victory. Gunther was out to prove a point, and that point was written across Cena's body in red welts and exhausted breaths. The match went back and forth, each man trading devastating moves, each man pushing the other to their absolute limit. Cena hit the five-knuckle shuffle, the crowd erupted, and you could feel the momentum shifting. He lifted Gunther up for the attitude adjustment, the move that's won him championships and closed out WrestleMania main events, but the Ring General slipped out, transitioned into a sleeper hold, and suddenly the tide turned again. The near falls were insane. Cena kicked out of a powerbomb at 2.5, and the crowd absolutely lost their minds. Gunther looked shocked, genuinely rattled for the first time in months. He backed into the corner, measuring Cena, waiting for the perfect moment to hit the devastating lariat that's put away so many opponents. But Cena dug deep, summoned that superhuman resolve that's made him a legend, and caught Gunther with a surprise roll-up. 1, 2, and Gunther kicked out just in time. The referee's hand was inches from the mat, and you could see the frustration, the desperation on Cena's face. Then came the moment that changed everything. Gunther locked in a modified ankle lock, wrenching on Cena's leg with vicious intensity. Cena crawled, clawed, fought with everything he had to reach the ropes. The crowd was on their feet, some begging him to fight through it, others sensing that this was the end. Cena's hand hovered over the mat, trembling, fighting against every instinct to tap out. His face was a mask of agony, years of wear and tear and punishment all coming to a head in this one excruciating moment. And then, after what felt like an eternity, after the crowd had screamed themselves hoarse, John Cena tapped out. The bell rang, and the arena went silent for just a split second before erupting into absolute chaos. Half the crowd was booing so loudly it shook the building. The other half was chanting Gunther's name, celebrating what they saw as a necessary changing of the guard. But the overall vibe? It was hostile. It was angry. It was the sound of a fanbase that felt robbed, that felt like they'd been sold a story only to have it ripped away at the worst possible moment. This wasn't Cena losing clean after a hard-fought battle, this was Cena tapping out, submitting, something that felt fundamentally wrong to millions of fans who'd grown up watching him embody the never-give-up spirit. And here's where things get really interesting, where the story moves from the ring to the backstage politics that run this entire industry. The crowd that night didn't just boo the finish, they turned on Triple H, chants of "Triple H sucks" echoed through the arena. Signs appeared on social media within minutes, calling for his resignation, demanding answers, accusing him of betraying the fanbase. Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, every corner of the wrestling internet exploded with rage. Fans felt like they'd been promised something special, a coronation for one of the greatest to ever lace up a pair of boots, and instead they got a finish that felt like a gut punch. Now before we go any further, I want you to pause this video right now and hit that like button. If you're feeling what I'm feeling, if you understand the gravity of what's happening in WWE right now, show some love. Subscribe to SLAMZONE if you haven't already, because we're going to be covering every single development in this story as it unfolds. We're not corporate shills, we're not here to protect anyone's image. We're here to give you the real, unfiltered truth about what's happening in professional wrestling. Join this family, be part of the conversation, and let's navigate this chaos together. The backlash was immediate and it was severe. Within hours of Saturday night's main event ending, trending topics on social media were dominated by angry fans demanding accountability. Hashtags calling for Triple H to step down were everywhere. Wrestling journalists started publishing think pieces about whether Triple H had lost touch with the audience, whether his vision for WWE was fundamentally at odds with what the fans actually wanted. Comparisons were made to Vince McMahon's most tone-deaf booking decisions, the kind of creative choices that drove fans away in droves. And that's when the rumors started. Multiple sources, and I want to be crystal clear here, these are unconfirmed reports and speculation, but multiple sources began whispering that The Rock was furious. The Great One, the People's Champion, the man who's not just a WWE legend but a global icon, reportedly called an emergency meeting with TKO executives. The word on the street was that Rock felt Triple H had damaged the brand, had alienated the core fan base, and had made a decision that could have long-term financial implications for a company that's trying to maximize its value in the modern entertainment landscape. Some reports suggested that Rock, who sits on the TKO board and has significant influence over WWE's direction, was pushing for serious consequences. The most explosive rumor? That The Rock himself was advocating for Triple H to be removed from his position as head of creative. Now let me be absolutely clear, there is no confirmed report that Triple H has been fired. WWE has not made any official statement. Triple H himself has not been removed from his position. But the fact that these rumors exist, the fact that they're spreading like wildfire through the wrestling community, tells you everything you need to know about how serious this situation has become. Think about the implications here. Triple H has been the golden child of WWE's new era. When Vince McMahon retired, when the company was sold to Endeavor and merged with UFC under the TKO umbrella, Triple H was positioned as the savior. He was the guy who was going to fix everything that was broken, who was going to listen to the fans, who was going to bring back long-term storytelling and treat wrestlers with respect. For over a year, he delivered. Ratings were up, the product was critically acclaimed, wrestlers were publicly praising the backstage environment, and fans were genuinely excited about WWE again. But this Cena situation? This might be his first major miscalculation, and it couldn't have come at a worse time. WWE is negotiating billion-dollar media rights deals. They're trying to position themselves as premium content providers in an era where streaming services and traditional networks are fighting for every subscriber. The last thing they need is a fanbase revolt, a social media firestorm that makes casual observers think the product is in turmoil. And if The Rock, who's arguably the most valuable ambassador WWE has ever had, is legitimately concerned, that's a 5-alarm fire. Here's what we know for certain. The fan reaction was overwhelmingly negative. Social media metrics don't lie, and the data shows that this was one of the most poorly received creative decisions of Triple H's entire tenure. Wrestling podcasters, YouTubers, even mainstream sports media outlets picked up the story, framing it as a controversial moment that could define WWE's direction. Industry insiders have confirmed that there were heated discussions backstage after the show, that Triple H was confronted about the decision, and that tensions are running higher than they've been in months. The question everyone's asking is why? Why did Triple H book this finish? Some defend it as bold storytelling, as a willingness to pull the trigger on unpopular decisions if they serve the long-term narrative. They argue that Gunther needed this win more than Cena, that the ring general's credibility as a monster heel depends on him defeating legends convincingly. They point out that Cena tapping out adds a layer of vulnerability to his character, sets up potential redemption storylines, and proves that Triple H isn't afraid to make tough calls even when they're unpopular. Others see it as a catastrophic misjudgment of the audience. They argue that Cena's farewell tour should be about celebrating his legacy, not tearing it down. They believe that having him tap out, especially in what was billed as a major main event, sends the wrong message to fans who've invested decades of emotional energy into his career. They worry that this is the beginning of Triple H prioritizing his own creative ego over fan satisfaction, the same trap that Vince McMahon fell into repeatedly throughout his later years. The Rock's alleged involvement adds another layer of complexity. If the rumors are true, if Rock really is pushing back against Triple H's creative direction, we're looking at a potential power struggle at the highest levels of WWE. Rock has leverage. He's box office gold, he's got mainstream credibility that transcends wrestling, and his opinion carries weight with the TKO executives who ultimately control WWE's fate. Triple H, for all his accomplishments, doesn't have that same level of influence outside the wrestling bubble. If it comes down to a battle between the game and the Great One, who do you think TKO is going to side with? This situation is fluid, it's developing, and honestly, nobody knows exactly how it's going to play out. Will Triple H weather this storm and prove that his long-term vision justifies the short-term backlash? Will he be forced to pivot, to make changes, to give the fans a feel-good moment that repairs the damage? Or are we witnessing the beginning of the end of Triple H's creative reign, a cautionary tale about how quickly the wrestling business can turn on you when you lose the audience? What's absolutely certain is that the next few weeks are going to be crucial. WWE has major shows coming up, storylines that need to be advanced, and a fanbase that's watching every move with heightened scrutiny. How Triple H responds to this crisis, whether he doubles down or course-corrects, will define his legacy as a creative leader. And if The Rock really is as upset as the rumors suggest, we might be headed for some serious changes behind the scenes. Before we wrap this up, I need you to do one more thing for me. If this video gave you insight, if it helped you understand what's really happening in WWE right now, smash that like button, subscribe to SLAMZONE, turn on notifications, and become part of this incredible community. We're building something special here, a place where wrestling fans can get real analysis without the corporate spin. Share this video with your friends, start conversations, debate in the comments. Is Triple H right to book Cena this way? Should The Rock get involved in creative decisions? Is this controversy overblown or is it a legitimate crisis? I want to hear from you, because SLAMZONE isn't just my channel, it's our channel, and your voice matters. The wrestling world is at a crossroads. John Cena's shocking submission loss to Gunther wasn't just a match result, it was a statement, a line in the sand, a moment that forced everyone to pick a side. The fan backlash has been swift and brutal, the rumors of backstage turmoil are impossible to ignore, and the possibility of The Rock taking action against Triple H has turned this from a creative controversy into a potential corporate shakeup. This is the kind of drama that defines eras, that people will talk about for years to come. Whatever happens next, wherever this story goes, you can count on SLAMZONE to bring you the truth. No clickbait, no exaggeration, just honest analysis of the wrestling business we all care so deeply about. Hit that subscribe button, join the family, and let's ride this wave together. Because in wrestling, you never know what's going to happen next, but you can be damn sure it's going to be unforgettable. I'll see you in the next one, and until then, keep your eyes on WWE because this story is far from over.